Right, hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, as the title suggests, we're going to be painting and refurbishing these standard polo calipers. Stay tuned. Right, so as the title suggests, we're going to be repainting and refurbishing these standard front calipers for the Volkswagen Polo GTI. Now I do have a second set of calipers. Well, these are the second set. There's already a set on the car obviously, but these will be upgraded to Porsche 4-pot Brembos very soon. But at the moment the front ones are just shot. They're sticking and not great, and I thought, well, I've got a second pair available, and I've also got some parts from Autodoc, which you saw in my last video, which will be up here in the top right hand corner, to rebuild them. And it wasn't a lot. I've got some stuff from Big Red as well, just some like seals and some like rubber grease, that sort of thing. I think that was like 20 quid, and I think they were like £5 each, so not a lot really. As you can see, these have got a little bit of surface rust. This one's better than that one. These have been sandblasted, but as everyone knows, the VW paint is very hard. But on these I've taken off a little bit of the casting marks as well. I will be taking off some more, but this one you can see that it's all bubbled and that. I left this one overnight, but look how rusty it is in there. I don't know if you can see it, but all that needs to go. I need to get some wet and dry and completely get rid of all of that before we even consider painting. And especially in here, what I'll be painting in here, because obviously that's where the actual cylinder itself sits, and obviously you don't want rust in there. You want a nice smooth bore. So right, let's get started. So I'm going to prep this one first because it's got less rust on it, and see all these sort of edges where the paint already exists. I'm going to have to feather them in with a bit of sandpaper or a file. Anything critical like mating faces, like here, I'm going to have to tape off. Let's tape off around here, obviously make sure that's all shiny again. Tape off around the actual bleed nipple here, obviously that needs a lot of attention. Look how rusty it is. And then once that's all prepped and ready, I'm going to put that to one side and then really start on this one, because in there is really bad. I wonder if I can get a torch to show you. Yeah, look, that's how bad the rust is in there. All of that needs to come out and go, and that needs to be a nice polished surface inside. Otherwise these calipers will just stick again and we'll be back at square one. So right, onto this one. First of all, I'm going to get the file. I'm going to blend all of this in so you can't see the lines when you paint it. Take off any casting marks that look a bit unsightly, and then give it a good paint. Right, so this is the caliper in question, the first one. Like I said, I'm going to knock off all of these casting marks so it looks a little bit more flush and a little bit more nicer or premium. I don't know, they don't need to be there, so I'm going to get rid of them. And then I'm going to feather in all this old paint, which should be okay, rough it all up so it's ready to stick. Then I'm going to mask off everything that needs to be masked off, and then I can get that ready for paint. And then obviously move on to the next caliper, which is just over here out of shot, get that ready for paint. Now this video does look like it will be a two-part video, so make sure you subscribe. It should be down here somewhere, and make sure you like the video if you liked it, and let's get on with it. Right, now the outside of this one is pretty much ready to be painted. However, inside the cylinder there, or the actual bore, there's quite a bit of rust. Not as much as obviously that one over here, but this one does have quite a lot of rust in it. So I'm going to have to get a Dremel, I think, with a wire brush and get right in there and get all that crap out. Right, so I've got my handy little attachment installed on the Dremel. Now it's just a matter of putting it in and cleaning all that crud out. Now I don't know if you can see in it, but that is very clean now. There's a little bit in the corner at the bottom that we need to get. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'll be better with that light. Right at the bottom. But I'll get the little attachment on it. A little one of these. Get all that crud out and this will be ready for paint. Right, so this is one caliper ready for painting. All of that cylinder is now nice and clean, nice and free of rust. I will go through it again with some really high grit wet and dry sandpaper to make it really smooth inside. But yeah, as you can see, it is nice and shiny in there again. Onto the really rusty one, which is going to take a little bit longer, so I'll probably just time lapse that, get that out of the way. And then once that one's ready to paint, I'm going to mask them all up and then we can get an actual base coat on it. Now as you can see, this one's going to be a little bit harder to prep. It's got multiple layers of old paint on it, which will come straight off of the Dremel, or should do at least, but it's quite hard. So I think this is going to take quite a while to get all this crap off. Right, looks to me that sandpaper or wet and dry paper is the way forward because the Dremel's barely touching this paint where it's so hard. So let's try some 240 grit. Now, as anticipated, this is going to be a lot harder than the actual other one. Yeah, this original VW paint is very difficult. It's like it's chalking up all of the files and all of the sandpaper. So I think with this one I'm going to have to get it as smooth as possible and then go from there. Now, as you might be able to see, that worked really well, and it was just literally a little wire brush attachment, a little straight one. It's got all of that flakiness off, so now all I need to do is just go over wet and dry, and we're basically there, more or less. Literally, it's blended all of the paint in. There's a few little rough patches that I've missed, or that I couldn't get to, but literally it's done the job. So I'm going to wet and dry all outside and get it all smooth, and then I'm going to focus on the actual bore where the piston sits again, because that one is really bad. Right, as you might be able to see, it's very dusty in here because I've taken as much paint off of this as I possibly can. It's been polished, it's been cleaned. I'm going to go over it again with a 320 grit, literally get it as smooth as possible, and then I'm going to do that bore, and then it's masking up and it's actually getting paint on. Now, I'm not too fussed about how these turn out. Obviously I want them to look good, but they don't have to be perfect. They're going to be replaced in the next 6 months or so, or early next year, with some Porsche 4-pot Brembos. So I'm going to be putting most of my time and energy into them. There will be another video, so make sure you subscribe, so then obviously you can get a notification and see that. Yeah, so there will be Brembos going on anyway, but they require wheel spacers, they require adapters, they require new brake lines. So I think the average cost that I've worked out is about £600. That's not including the calipers themselves. So obviously these are just sort of like a temporary thing to make sure the car's actually braking and stopping properly, because at the moment the brakes aren't great. So like I said, yes, not really fussed if these come out absolutely brilliant, but they will be better than what's already on the car. And it's a bit of a learning experience as well. Right, so I'm happy with that. I'm happy how smooth it is. There are areas I could spend a lot more time on, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to get my duct tape again. I'm going to fix it in place. I'm going to put a little bit of W40 down there, just to sort of loosen up a little bit. And another little trick is malt vinegar or clear vinegar. It eats away acid. Just put a little bit of that in, and then I can get the Dremel and go down there and clean all that crap out. So there's one. That's just like the open brush. Now I'm going to use like one of these little side brushes to get in all the angles, and also get in the groove where the actual rubber seal will sit. Right, so that's both cylinders clear, that's both calipers ready for paint. They've both been buffed over, they've both been gone over with different grits of wet and dry. Now I need to use some 600 inside the cylinder to make sure it's perfectly flat. I'm going to do this wet because a wet sand does come out smoother. So literally just a matter of doing that, making sure any lumps and bumps are gone. So there's one and two. Right, so now I need to clean them off, mask them up, and now we can then paint them. Right, so I have both calipers now on a semi-clean towel. Just going to spray them off with some brake cleaner to go and try and get any oil and dirt off. I'll also wash my hands a little bit. Just trying to take them and get as much crap off as possible. So I now need to mask off the stuff I don't want to get paint on, especially inside the cylinders. These main surfaces aren't that important at the moment, but things like the actual brake line in and the actual bleed nipple, you don't really want paint in them. So I'm going to get some of my masking tape and I'm going to blank them off. Now the bleed nipples are a bit weird, as in it requires paint around it. So I found these. These are old ear defenders or earbuds. So literally just put them in and it expands in the hole and then it protects it. Little trick. Put in the hole, it expands out, and there you go. Now you can cut the top off. Literally crush it down. And that's them threads protected. They're protected in there, and most importantly, the cylinder is protected. Right, so these are the masked up, ready to go calipers. All I need to do now is hang them from a point somewhere and then spray them down with some brake cleaner. And I've got some pre-paint wipes or prep wipes, and then we can start to actually get a base coat on them and then build them up. These are the wipes I'm using. They're from Halford's. They're the paint restoration, or sorry, they're the Halford's paint preparation wipes. And obviously you just get them out, use them to clean the surface before you paint it. think these were quite cheap. I think they're about £1 or so. This is not sponsored by Halfords, obviously. But yeah, you get your wipe out. It's just literally a matter of rubbing everything down, ready for painting. So like I said before, I'm not really worried about the quality too much, because at the end of the day, these are only like an interim problem fix. Once we get the parts for the pulse calipers, which they do work out quite expensive, but they'll be worth it because I'll have 4-pot brimmers on the front with 312mm discs from a Golf GTI. Slightly bigger discs. The rear will be 256mm vented, so they'll be slightly bigger, but the rear ones are sort of cosmetic. Most of the stopping power's from the front. So yeah, that's that one done. Seal that down to make sure nothing comes out of that. Just give this little wipe off as well. And I'm going to hang them off the ceiling with one of the bolt holes, so they're just spinning there freely. I can get all around it, 360 degrees. You might hear it in the camera, but I've got a fan on. I will be wearing a mask and goggles, because obviously you don't want paint in your lungs. Yeah. Right, that's them done. I'm going to get some cable and then I'm going to hang them up. Right, that's one with the cable on it. Right, so they're all cabled up. Now I'm going to hang them from the ceiling. Right, so here they are, hanging. I put them at different heights just because that's how it happened. The ceiling bows a bit, so how they hang is basically how it is. But anyway, I'm going to be spraying them with Volkswagen Tornado Red. This is the GTI, well, the Golf GTI Mark V colour. I think it might be a Mark IV as well, I'm not sure. But calipers don't actually get that hot. I've seen some get very hot, but 9 times out of 10, this car won't be going fast enough in the current state it is in to get that hot. So literally going to be a few coats of Tornado Red. Then I'm going to give it a couple of coats of clear, and then it should be done. Over here, just off camera, I do have one of the carriers hanging. I do have the other one primed, all ready to go. So I will be painting them. I'll do them off camera because they're not that interesting. They're only light bits of metal. But obviously these need painting, and I'm going to leave them 24 hours to cure. And then tomorrow I shall be refitting all the internals and rebuilding them. So that will also be part 2. So as I've said before, please subscribe and like, and let's get on with the painting. Always give it a good shake before you start. Good minute or so, and then you can see if it works. And let's just start giving it light coats. You don't want to cake it, you just want to do light layers, build it up, build it up, build it up. There's no rush. You want it to just slowly be built up. I'm going to concentrate in here quite a bit and put a bit of lacquer in here because that's the most likely place to wear through, and that's where it's going to see the most brake dust. I say that's coat 1 done. so then I'll come back in 5 minutes and then we'll have another go. Right, so it's been about 10 minutes, it's time for a second coat. Right, it's coat number 2. Right, so now we're on the third coat. This will be the last coat, and then it should be lacquer. But in between then, there's going to be a little bit of fine sanding, I think, and a little bit of touch-ups. But what I'll do is I'll do another coat, let it dry for a good half an hour, and then I'll come back and then see where we're at. Right, so I'm now going to leave it for half an hour. While I'm waiting for them, I will off camera spray the actual carriers themselves, and then I'll get back to you in about half an hour, 45 minutes. Right, as you can see, I've painted the 2 actual carriers themselves. This one's got a little bit of lacquer on to see how it's sat, and it looks quite nice and glossy, to be fair. That's to keep most of the brake dust away and stop it from embedding in too deep. But obviously, like I said, these are only going to be on for about 6 months or so until we upgrade them to the Porsche brakes. So yeah, these 2 are basically done. This one on the right, this one here, needs some touch up, and to do that I'm going to have to sand some of the paint back and then reapply it. So to do that I'm going to have to let it cure for 24 hours. This one here looks okay. There's some marks around the back on places you're not really going to see. So I'm not too fussed about that, because like I said, I'm going to upgrade to the Porsche brakes. When I do them, it's going to take a lot more time, and it's going to be a lot more in depth. But for the moment I'm happy with these, so I'm going to have to leave these for 24 hours to cure. Then obviously I can sand that one back, touch it up, and then give it a little bit longer and then lacquer them. But stay tuned for part 2. That's when I shall be replacing the seals and the actual pistons themselves and getting them ready to go on the car. As always, thank you for watching, and if you like this video then please like it, tell me why in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. See you in the next one.